So, after 2.5 years out of the ring, Keith Thurman is finally returning, and it's going to be up against Mario Barrios. And with Barrios, like, he is a 140 pounder. He's not a welterweight, so he's making his welterweight debut. And in his last fight, I believe his last fight was against Tank. Unless he had a fight after that, I don't think he did. But I remember when he fought against Tank, which was last year, I think, and he got stopped in that fight. And that was a competitive fight. It was competitive, but Tank ended up getting a late stoppage in the end. So, and that was at 140. Bearing in mind, Tank was making his 140 debut, and he still managed to hurt and knock Barrios out. So yes, Tank is an exceptional puncher. Like, he's pound for pound one of the biggest punchers in the sport. Pound for pound, in my opinion, he probably hits harder than Thurman. Thurman overall is a bigger puncher than Tank because obviously he's bigger, he's 2 weight classes above him, and he's bigger, and he's a bigger puncher than Davis overall. But I'm saying pound for pound, Davis is a bigger puncher, if that makes sense. So yeah, Davis can punch, but that was his 140 debut though, and Barrows couldn't really take the power there. So how is he going to be able to handle Thurman's power, who hits harder than Tank, if you couldn't handle Tank's power? So yeah, like, I'm not I'm not convinced that Barros is going to be able to handle it when Thurman applies pressure, starts putting weight on his shots. I don't think Barros is going to be able to handle it. But one thing Barros does have on his side though is he's been more active. Obviously, like I said earlier, Thurman's been out of the ring for a long time, and part of that is down to injuries. For Keith Thurman, he has been injured. He said he got injured before the Pacquiao fight, and he also got injured before the Danny Garcia fight. So he fought both of those fights with injuries. That's what he says. And so after the Pacquiao fight, he wanted to recover from his injury. But I don't think injuries is the only reason why he's been out of the ring so long. It can't be, because it's been 2.5 years now. I think that Thurman is falling out of love with boxing. Yeah, that's what I honestly think. I think that he's I don't want to say he's had enough of boxing, but he doesn't love it the way he used to when he was a young, hungry pro. Like, before he was a champion, when he first won his world title, he doesn't enjoy it as much as he did back then. He's probably getting, and boxing's a tough sport. It's a grueling sport. Physically, doing all that running, the sparring, the hitting the heavy bag is physically very, very intense, but also mentally as well. It's a grueling sport, having to deal with the promoters, the managers, people being shady, people trying to rip you off, managers trying to rip you off, managers, promoters trying to rip you off. The business side of it as well is all long. It's just long, and certain people try and be opportunistic and try and rip you off and stuff like that. So I think just boxing as a package and everything overall, I'm sure Furman still loves it. I mean, I'm sure Furman still likes it. Obviously, like, yeah, like, I'm sure he still enjoys it, but definitely not as much as he used to, and it's probably getting a little bit tired of it. And I think that's partly why he's been out the ring so long. And the reason why I say I think he's falling out of love with boxing is just by the way he talks in interviews. Like, you can tell from the way he speaks and what he says, he's just not as ambitious and or as hungry as he was back in 2015, 2016, 2014, etc. Like, he's not doesn't have that deep desire to beat all the top guys, unify all the belts. He doesn't have that intense drive to do that, from what I see in his interviews and things like that. So yeah, like, with Furman, it'll be interesting to see how he does in his comeback fight. But he really should win, because Barrios, he's not only is this going to be his first fight in the division, but also he was never an amazing 140 pounder. It's not like he's fighting a guy who was amazing at 140, making his welterweight debut. No, Barrios was a top 10 slash top 15 guy at probably, yeah, top 10 slash top 15 guy, lower down the top 10, probably top 15 in back at 140. Never won a world title at 140. So yeah, he wasn't anything special at 140, and this is his first fight in 147. Yeah, Thurman, despite the inactivity, should win. I'm predicting him to win, but at the same time, it won't shock me if Barrios wins, because, like I said, Thurman doesn't have that same hunger that he used to. But if Thurman does win, I wonder I wonder who he's gonna call out in his pros fight interview, if he calls out any of the top guys. And I wonder who his next fight is gonna be. Does he have real intentions of fighting the top guys? I mean, because we know he avoided Spence for so long, but now he's calling Spence out post car crash, probably because he and yeah, post no, even before the car crash, when Spence fought Sean Porter, that's when he started calling out Spence. And obviously after the car crash, he's calling him out more and more. So he's probably seeing chinks in Spence's armor, especially since Spence is not as he's not being as active for one, and he's showing a little bit more vulnerability for two. So yeah, he's been calling out Spence a bit more. Crawford, he's not really calling out Crawford too much. But yeah, we'll see if he calls out any of the top guys, if he's willing to fight them, assuming he gets past Barrios. But I don't think any of these fights will get made. Thurman Spence or Thurman Crawford. Yeah, like I don't really see those fights being made. I don't think Thurman truly wants those fights when it's all said and done. The guy's lost that hunger, in my view. But I hope he hasn't lost that hunger though. I hope I'm wrong actually, because if he hasn't, it makes for more entertaining bouts. Yeah, I mean, I'm a boxing fan at the end of the day, so I don't really care. I don't really care if I'm wrong. I mean, like I want the sport to do well, so if I'm wrong, that's great. That's great because Thurman versus Spence, a dedicated and on it Thurman against Spence, and a dedicated and on it Thurman against Crawford, like an ambitious Thurman against Crawford. That's a really, really good fight. Both of those fights. So yeah, we'll see what happens with Keith Thurman in the Barrios fight. Like I said, I'm picking Thurman to win, but it won't shock me if he loses. And we'll see what happens with Thurman in the nearby future, this year in 2022, next year, and so on. And yeah, but yeah, that's it for this video, guys. If you agree with what I said or disagree, put your comments in the comment section below. And any other thoughts or musings that you guys may have about Keith Thurman in his comeback fight and just Keith Thurman in general as a fighter, leave it all in the comments. I respond to all the comments anyway, so I'll see it and I'll respond to it. And if you've liked the video, I mean, if you've got this far in the video, come on, like clearly you've liked it to some extent, so smash that like button. And that's it for this video. So until next time.